Hey, Queen. Let's talk about how to approach corporate clients for your business. Too often, I talk to entrepreneurs who are feeling like they're making small money, right? Like they're just barely getting by in their business. And so they are excited about the opportunity to land 5 and 6 figure corporate clients, which is precisely what we've taught to thousands of women successfully around the globe. So stay until the end of this video because I'll even share with you a specific story for how a client approached a major leader of a corporation successfully with an out-of-the-box strategy. But let's get into it. How to successfully approach corporate clients. I always think about the why. Simon Sinek says start with why. So as we talk about how to approach corporate clients, let's talk about the thinking or the psychology behind it. I think David A. Fields demonstrates this best with the idea he calls right side up thinking. Right side up thinking is a spin on thinking. Normally when I talk to entrepreneurs, let's say a networking setting, right? You go to networking settings, which I loathe, right? I'm an ambivert, I'm an introverted extrovert. So it's like, I can turn it on when I have to be around people, but afterwards I'm like, I want to turn it off. And I loathe networking events because it just feels like grandiose introductions and like self-importance. And so you go to these networking events and someone introduces themselves and they're like, I'm Jane Doe and I've been doing this for 20 years and I graduated from so-and-so and so-and-so and this is what I do. And that's how they present themselves to the marketplace. Whereas David A. Fields talks about why that's so problematic when you're trying to approach clients, specifically corporate clients. Instead of approaching a conversation of talking about yourself and what you've done, you really want to think about the buyer. And so right side up thinking is shifting from who you are and what you do to focusing on what the buyer's thinking about, what their problems are, and what interests them. It makes me think of my mentor when I first started speaking. I left corporate America initially to be a speaker. And so I went through speaker training with Delatoro McNeil. And when I was looking at how do I get over my fear of speaking, one of the things that Delatoro shared with me as a story is he said, when you get out to the stage, don't think about all of the people in the audience and feel like you have to serve all of the people in the audience. Think about one person and think about that person needing your message. And if you do not deliver your message and what you have to offer to that one person, they are going to be left in famine or without. So focus on that one person and their needs and make sure you give them specifically what you need. And so now when I speak, when it's not about me and my ego and about perfection, and it's instead about that one person in the audience that I'm called to serve and making sure I give them exactly what they need before they leave, that shifts my energy and it makes me focus on serving and it changes my message. And that's really what you want to adopt with right side up thinking. So when you're considering approaching corporate clients, first think of what are the needs of potential corporate clients? What are they concerned about? I teach this as the status quo. What is the status quo for your potential buyer? Business as usual. What are they facing in their day-to-day? What are their challenges? What risks do they face in their role? What risks do they face as a company? What's top of mind for them? So it's really inserting yourself into the status quo of your buyer and making sure that all of your language is centered around that. Now, once you've adopted right side up thinking, you then want to look at how to position yourself in the marketplace. So when we study executive buyers, they say time and time again that the number one thing that they value is specialized expertise. They want someone that can come into their situation, immediately assess, diagnose, and then present an outcome for them. So they're not looking for the generalist. They're not looking for the Jacqueline of all trades. They're looking for someone with a specific set of skills, right? I don't know why Taken always comes to mind. It's like, I have a special set of skills. Like that's who you want to be when you think of yourself as the go-to service provider. And so identify what specifically you're going to do. Now, this is easy to say in a video, but let me tell you, this is a stumbling block for most entrepreneurs. The idea that I have to position myself as someone who focuses on one area of expertise instead of being all things for all people. There's always this idea of like, I want to be, it's like you're trying to be a small fish in a big pond instead of a big fish in a small pond, right? Like you want to shrink the pond so that you can be very visible and seen as that go-to thought leader and expert, right? So when you're approaching corporate clients, you need to be positioned as having specialized expertise and being the go-to category thought leader, which means that strategically, you need to think about who you're not in the marketplace. Oftentimes we struggle, like, I don't know who to be. So think about who you're not in the marketplace, who you're not called to serve, right? So that positioning is critical. Now, once you're positioned as the thought leader, and once you've adopted right side up thinking and you've really identified the status quo of your buyer and what their challenges are, then you want to think about who is your ideal buyer. You're not trying to engage every potential buyer. Think about who are those buyers that you understand their map of the world, you understand their challenges, and you feel 100% confident that if you had an engagement with them, that you would be able to deliver a desired outcome. And there's two ways you can look at this list of buyers, if you will. First, you can look at your existing network. So audit your existing network and think about who are those relationships that I already have, that they already know, like, and trust me. We already have a history, because refer leads close 4 times faster. And so when you think about that pool of existing relationships that you have, because you already have some rapport built, oftentimes it's just reintroducing yourself to those people in your network. Hey, John, we haven't caught up in a while. Would love to do coffee. And then over coffee, as you're having just this candid conversation, you can let John know, yeah, I realize that manufacturing firms are really having challenges with digital transformation. And so I'm really focused on empowering them with, toolkits or, whatever that is. And so you're just reintroducing yourself to your existing network to let them know what you're passionate about and the problems that you solve. And because you already have rapport, you'd be surprised about how that low-hanging fruit of those existing relationships and your network can produce opportunities, right? So that's one way to approach it. Another way is, in addition to your existing network, you also want to establish new relationships. And when you think about establishing new relationships with executive buyers, I love the philosophy of Bob Burg, the go-giver mentality. When I was in high school, I'll never forget when my mom first gave me the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It was actually The 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teenagers, was the version of the book that she gave me. And there is a section of that book that has stuck with me for the past couple decades. And in that section, Stephen Covey makes the analogy that relationships are like a bank account. And before you can withdraw from a bank account, you have to make deposits. Otherwise, you overdraw the bank account, right? You overdraft the bank account. And so when you think about cultivating and establishing relationships with new executive buyers, I want you to think about it like a bank account. You want to be a go-giver. How can you make deposits into the relationship before you ever try to withdraw or transact on that relationship? So every year we have events and we bring in executive buyers and we ask them, how do you want external partners and service providers to approach you? And time after time, they say they're looking for insights. They're looking for, value. They're looking for external partners to add value to them and present some type of insights or new data, which will give them a quick win in their role. So as you're thinking about those deposits, you want to think about, this goes right back to that status quo. What's happening in the world of my buyer? What are the challenges that they face? And what could I offer them? Something quick, something that's easy for them to consume, something that's tangible. What can I offer that will give them a quick win in their day-to-day or add value to them in their organization? And make sure that you're making those deposits. Here's what that might look like. So the story that I was going to share with you, one of my clients, Kelly, she was looking at reaching out to a major executive. And this is someone who's like a celebrity leadership, celebrity leader, very well known. And, there was a lot of intimidation about reaching out to this leader. But this leader is published very often. And so she's always consuming his publications and his think pieces on leadership and how he approaches leadership. And she also writes think pieces on leadership. And so what she did, because she's constantly consuming his content, is she recorded a video. She was connected with him on LinkedIn, and she sent this video to him, citing one of his pieces and adding value and adding her perspective on his thoughts, and just having a real candid conversation, positioning her as a peer who valued his expertise. And then she invited him to be on her leadership podcast, right? And so she was shocked that he responded. She's like, I would have thought he would never respond to me. But it was how she presented herself. She presented herself as someone who really had done her diligence, who valued his perspective. She added her thoughts, and then she invited him as a peer to have a conversation about it. So I think oftentimes we overthink the approach. At the end of the day, whether it's corporate clients, individual consumers, we're all in the business of people. So it's thinking about, how can I present myself as a value add, as having specialized expertise, and really cultivating relationships and making deposits. I want to hear from you. Have you found best practices for approaching corporate clients? What are those best practices? Or are you intimidated by approaching corporate clients? What are your greatest fears about approaching them? I'm LizJSimpson, founder of the Big Money Movement, and we want to make big money moves with you. If you're looking for more strategies to land 5- and 6-figure corporate clients, make sure you sign up for our advanced masterclass that you can find at thebigmoneymovement.com. Or if you're looking for language, if you're like, Liz, okay, I appreciate these strategies for how to approach corporate clients, but I need a little bit of language. I got you. And go to corporateclientscripts.com where you can download 3 of our proven scripts. Look, now that I got you excited about these corporate clients, I want to direct you to my next video, which talks about how to land corporate clients. Until next time, I'm rooting for your success. Bye. There's that video. Big money, 6-figure deals right there. Click that video.